Hello. So we had a wee glitch this morning with Facebook. You never know what's going on, but I couldn't get on. So apparently there was a few problems somewhere. But here we are. So evening practice now for me, which normally I'm practicing with you guys in the morning. Lots of hips today, and we'll really work with focusing on the breath and just allowing us to find ways into the challenge of opening the hips, which for most of us are areas that carry tension. So usual props, blocks, something to sit up onto. We're going to start lying on our back, but we will come into seated as well, so you'll want to elevate your hips a little for most of us. Popping your props just off to one side so that you can get them as we need, and then just come on down onto your backs. Just coming into what we call constructive rest, where the knees are together, the feet apart. Just walk the shoulders away from the ears. Let the palms either turn to face up, or you can rest one hand on the heart, one on the belly. If your shoulders kind of hover and your arms float off the floor when you're resting your hands onto the body, then better to bring the arms down so we can really relax into the shoulders. Soften, soften, soften. Allow the body to feel as if it's being received by the earth or the floor. And just take a few settling breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Breathe in, sigh it out. Just notice what you've brought with you on your mat today, and it can be quite different when we practice later in the day to what we get first thing in the morning. For me, my body's much more open by the end of the day, but sometimes the mind is a lot more active. Just see if you can just pay attention to the breath. And if the mind starts to wander off, just notice whatever it is you're wandering to, and then just pop it off to the side. And then just heel toe the feet in closer towards each other. We're going to press into the feet, and then just lift the hips and slide the hips off towards the right side. Palms facing down onto the floor, a little away from the body, or a lot if you have room. And then just squeeze the navel back, lift the knees, and then we're going to keep the right shoulder anchored down as we drop the knees over towards the left. So this is a good spot for props. For some of us, we're going to want to prop in underneath the outer and the lower leg. For some of us, we're going to want to prop maybe between the legs, and for some of us, maybe both those places. So if that right shoulder lifts up off the floor, then don't compromise the shoulder or the upper body to get the lower body down to the floor. And as time goes on, because we've got so much time in our yin poses, that we can adjust and modify as we need to. So you could be here. The higher the knees that are drawing up towards that left shoulder, the more sensation you're probably going to feel in around the glutes, into the lower back, outer hip. And then just adjust as you need to. That left hand could stay resting onto the outer right thigh, but not to force or pull, just as a kind of sense of an anchor. This right hand could bend, or right elbow could bend, and the hand could rest onto the ribs if you're feeling a lot of pull into the front of the chest. And then for me, the preference is definitely turning the head in the direction of the knees rather than twisting into the neck. And then see where you could soften. Check and see that you're not gripping the hip that you're lying onto. That one often will want to engage and turn on. I should have said, once you've landed, just make sure that the palms turn to face up if the arms are still down on the floor. And then come back to the breath. Breath in through the nose and out through the nose if you can. Let a sigh out through the mouth every now and then, just allows the body to drop in and sink a little more. Notice, where does the breath move? Are you tending to just breathe a little more into the upper chest? Are you getting breath into the middle of the chest? And are you getting breath down into the belly? Or one or more of those spots? And ideally we want the breath to trickle down past the back of the throat, in through the nose, all the way down to the belly first, then fill from bottom to top. Got to make sure you don't rush that breath in, otherwise you run out of breath to get to the top. Adjusting as you need to. If you want to draw the knees a little higher to add a little bit more intensity, then you can, but not forcing, remember, not just because. Don't do it just because you think you want more. Do it because it feels like there's space and the body's offering you a little more room. Scan from the toes all the way up the legs and see if there's anywhere that's tensing or holding. As you breathe out, see if you can soften a little more. Checking out what's going on around the hips and the pelvis. Is there anywhere you could soften and release a little tension? Noticing how the breath moves in this twisted shape. Some parts of the body expand a little more, some contract a little more. So if you can soften the hands, the arms, make them feel heavy like lead. Noticing the pull of the tissues across towards the right shoulder and the weight of the knees dropping towards the left. And then see if you can let the head be a little heavier, soften the throat, soften any tensing around the eyes and the jaw. Three more breaths. See if there's any way that you could drop in just a little more. And then when we've held a posture for quite some time, we've been here for about 5 minutes, we need to move really slow. Sometimes it's a good idea to take that left hand and support the right knee so that you can allow those tissues to contract back again, nice and slow, from the foot to the floor. And the left leg, and slide the hips back in line with the shoulders. Let the knees fall back towards each other again. Reach the arms out. Just line yourself up with what feels like your version of straight without even looking. Taking a few breaths here, just in this neutral position, and notice what's left over, what sensations are still going on. Where are you perhaps still feeling movement or adjustments in under the skin? How did the breath change now that we changed position? And then walk the feet back towards each other. Pop any props that you may need over onto, this time, the right side. You're going to press into the feet, lift the hips, and again do that mindfully. Really think about what we're doing when we lift the hips. So draw the pivot bone towards the navel, feel the feet press into the floor, lift the hips, and then just slide them across towards the left. And notice what you notice before we rush into the shape, because we know what's coming. Does it feel like you might be better to lift one leg and then the other? Then you can take the arms out wide. I like the palms to face down just to start with, because it helps me to kind of catch myself if I start to move too deep. And then dropping the knees this time over to the right. Don't let this left shoulder lift. Find your props and support. And then once you've landed, turn the palms to face up, or the right hand could rest onto that outer left thigh. But I'm not pulling, it's just a sense of a weight, or almost like a little security. And then find a position that works for your neck and head. I like the pull of having my head off towards the same direction as my knees. Traditionally, often in other forms of yoga, we turn the opposite direction to get a twist in the neck, but this way it feels like I'm getting this nice pull across the front of my chest and up into some of these major neck muscles in the front of the neck. And as you settle in here, as time goes on, maybe there's an opportunity to adjust your props. But always knowing why. Why are you adjusting? What is it you were looking for? And what did you get? Noticing the breath again. So feel the breath brushing in through the nose, down the back of the throat, into the chest, and all the way down to the belly. Feel the torso from bottom to top. Checking in with the kind of mind, and if it's wandering, you can just note what you're wandering to. What is it you're thinking about? What is it that's taking up this time for you? And is it so important that it can't just be popped off to the side for another 45 minutes? Sometimes when we feel pretty comfortable in a posture, that we can start thinking and planning, building lists. Sometimes when we feel pretty challenged in a pose, start to count how long we might have to stay for. We start to fidget and think about ways around what's going on. And other times we just seem to find this place of quiet and calm and still, even if it's just for a moment. Noticing the rise and fall of the breath. Breathing into anywhere where you feel there's a niggle or any kind of sensation that feels like there's some change wanting to happen. Notice if there's any tensing and clenching of the jaw or the eyes. Notice if you can soften those, and notice what happens elsewhere in the body if you do soften. Does it have an impact on another part of the body? Super slow. Maybe you use your right hand and support that left knee. Bring that foot back to the floor. Be aware there could be some niggles and some little ouches that happen. So we want to go slow so we can monitor those. Once you come back to center, shift your hips back through. Let the knees fall together. Again, just finding your version of what feels straight for you. See where you can soften. I know my tendency for me is that my shoulders want to lift forwards. I've really got to focus on letting the backs of the arms rest down towards the floor. Feel the weight of the shoulders. And then walk the feet back towards each other. Press into the feet. I'm just going to do a couple of little pelvic tilts here. So I want you to press your lower back to the floor. Gently press your feet into the floor and feel the pubic bone draw towards the navel. And then take the opposite of that. So we feel the arch come back in the lower back and you feel as if the sitting bones want to reach towards the floor. Just rocking back and forward, this little pelvic tilt. Feel the weight of the feet. And then little arch in the back. Notice how that movement of the pelvis affects the movement of the spine and the head. And then come back to neutral. We'll find that we keep a little arch in the lower back. Lift the knees in towards you and the lower back will flatten. And then just some nice circular movements. Again, you'll notice a movement in the lower back, that the arch rises and then compresses. Big circles in one direction or in both opposite directions in the knees. And then take that the other way. These hip joints are the biggest joints in the body, and in yin we do often focus a lot on the hips. That's where most people seem to have problems. Now you've got two options to come up. Is one, you just roll over onto a side and press yourself into seated. Or two, you could curl into a little ball. Start to swing the feet back and forward. And get a little bit of momentum happening to bring you up into seated. If you like the feeling of that, you could do it again. It's a little spinal massage. And then we're going to sit up onto our height, and for some of us we need a lot of height. So the more we elevate the hips, for those who have knees that really want to lift up high, the more we elevate the hips, usually the lower the knees can come down. You've also got the option, because we are sitting for a while, of crossing the legs. You've got your blocks which could come in underneath the outer shins. Or the other one I really like is rolling up a towel or a blanket and wrapping that in around the legs, and that really gives the legs a nice kind of landing place. So find a nice long spine. I'm just going to turn sideways again. And then if you could, sorry, I should have said this to start with, if you could cross the right leg in front of the left, we'll start there first. Right leg in front of the left. Have your blocks handy or something to lean into if you've got them. Lift up nice and tall. And just notice, just by crossing the legs, what do you feel? Position that most of us did as children with so much ease, and sitting at desks and lifestyle really kind of starts to bind these hips up. Also the shape of our hip sockets really has an impact on how we feel about cross-legged. And then we're going to start to lean forward, but I want you to watch that you don't just round forward. This is okay in yin to do this in some poses, but when I just round forward, I get some flexion in the spine, but I'm not getting anything in the hips. So I want you to find a nice long spine, put the blocks out in front, drop the chin towards the chest, lift the chest towards the chin, so we're lengthening through the front body, and we start to feel that little curve in through the lower back, and then just start to lean in. If you start to round, then I want you to back away a little bit. So chin to chest for the weight of the head. Really let the head go. You could even just give the head a little kind of figure eight, tiny little movement, just to soften the muscles at the back of the neck. As the body starts to open up, maybe you lean in a little further. You could make a stack with your blocks, rest the hands onto the blocks and rest the forehead down. You could bring your forearms onto the blocks, let the head hang, watching that you're not rounding through this upper back. Keep the shoulders sliding down the back, don't grip the hands, don't clench the jaw. All of those actions often come when we start to feel tension in around the lower back or into the outer hips, and that tension is not going to ease what's going on in the lower back. So see if you can just save that energy. In yoga, it's one of the principles, and they call it Brahmacharya, and Brahmacharya means to not waste energy. We don't want to waste energy, so find the breath again. Breathe into the discomfort. If it feels too much, you can try the breath, you can try bringing attention to it, you can try inviting it to soften. You can even try changing the mindset. And if that doesn't work, then back away so that it's not too much. We are looking for change, and we have to challenge ourselves a little. You can soften the head a little more when we let the head hang and let the weight of the head pull into those tissues in the back body. We get a nice opening into the trapezius muscles. And here you could really gently, just to inquire into what happens when we let the head hang, bring your attention down to the lower back, and then just ever so slowly just lift the head back up in line with the shoulders. And then drop it back down again. Notice how far the weight of the head adds into this fascial plane in the back of the body. Next time you bring the head down, you could leave it there. If you've got space and you can fold in a little more, you can go for it. You can even rest your block in under your head now. And then come back to the breath. Notice the movement that the breath creates through the body. Notice what expands on the inhale and notice what contracts on the exhale. And then flip that round, noticing as you breathe in, maybe that breath expands tissues and presses parts of the body in towards each other. Just a few more breaths here. I know we're holding poses for a long time today. 90 seconds to 10 minutes some poses. I've even heard of some poses being held for 15 to 20 minutes. Imagine sitting with discomfort for 20 minutes when a pose is super challenging. What tools would you need to allow yourself to stay there? Slide the hands in under the shoulders. With that long spine, bring yourself all the way back upright and feel what's going on in the back body. Feel what's going on in the hips. As that tissue contracts back again, it can feel fragile. And then we're just going to lean back super slow. Don't rush out. Again, we want to feel into any issues. Often in yoga, injuries happen coming out of poses. So we're in a hurry to get out. Lean back, widen the feet out. And then really slowly, the outer hip's going to feel tender. Just let the knees start to rock from side to side. The toes can lift and you can just be on the heels. And then from here, we're going to straighten the legs out. I'll turn and show you face on shortly. So just reach back and pull the flesh of the buttocks back as if you're trying to get right on the front edge of those sit bones. Widen that right leg out a little and bring the left leg a little further across the center line. Now if you've got any knee issues in that left leg, then you might want to put a block in underneath, or you could use that little bit of rolled blanket so that that's in there so that we're not compressing too much down here. And then we're going to bend that right leg. You're going to lift that leg all the way up and over and see if you can stack the knee onto the knee and bring the outer edge of the right foot towards the left hip. And I'm going to turn so you can see that shortly. And then just sit upright for a moment. Just noticing what's going on, what you've added. So we slid that left leg a little off center. We've bent that right leg, lifting it up and over, and you could have a block in underneath the knee or a padding, or if it's okay for you, you can just let the legs rest together. But we're looking to bring this right foot, so we're getting more onto the outer edge of the foot, out towards the opposite hip. And for some of us, this will be ridiculous. You'll be saying, there is no way that's going to go there. And if that's happening for you, no problem. Many ways around it. So we can bring our foot up onto a block and the knee won't stack onto the knee. We can have another block in underneath that knee if it's out to the side. And we're still going to get all of that sensation that we're getting when we can stack the knee. So your body, your yoga. So what one body can do, not everybody's body can do, and we shouldn't force it, we shouldn't make it go there when it's not ready. And then just notice, where is it that you feel sensation? This could be plenty, but if you've got space and you want to lean in, same action here. I want you to watch that you don't just round. So here I've just rounded, I've taken my spine into flexion, and that would be okay if I was wanting to open some spaces in my vertebra, but I don't. I want to stay with a nice long spine, and I want to start to lean in, chin towards the chest, heart lifting towards the chin. Now for me, what's stopping me today is my left hamstring, but it could be your hamstring, it could be your hip. If the hamstring is really stopping you and it feels like a lot, then I'd suggest that you turn the block up a little higher, or you take more height. So now I've taken a lot of the pressure of the hamstring out, but I might get more compression here as I lean forward. So I can't go any further because the block is stopping that bottom leg from flattening to the floor. And then because I've raised the legs up, I've brought my legs closer to my chest. So my chest is now resting onto my thigh, and that's as far as I can go. But that feels right for me today. I know the other side will be different because I don't have an issue in the hamstring. But remember, you could be just upright. You could be upright and just leaning in a little. You could be upright and just have your hands resting back behind you. And then whichever shape you're in, I want you to soften. Soften the muscles around the bottom. Soften the quads. Resist the urge to pull yourself forward and to crank and pull your way in. And just let yourself fold in or settle in. And then it's always curious and interesting just to scan the body and think about what is it that stops you from moving forward, what stops you from moving deeper. Maybe, as I said, it's the hamstring, maybe it's the hip, maybe it's something around the lower back, maybe it's all of that. You could have your hands kind of in prayer hands, you could have the arms crossed, you could even have a block, top leg, bottom leg. Often it takes a little bit of fluffing around to see what's working, what you need, what support you want. But then once you've found it, see if you can just commit to stillness. Find breath again, in through the nose. Breathing into any issues in the tissues. Sigh the next couple of breaths out and see if you can soften just a little more. Soften into the shoulders. And then use the hands to support you. Start to stack yourself back up if you're not upright already. Taking your props out from underneath the legs. And just pause. And if there was a lot of challenge in that pose, notice what's changed now that you've come out of it. And not just what's changed in the body, but what changed in the mind. Did it bring a sense of ease or a sense of peace? When you moved away from some challenge. Ever so slowly, just uncross that top leg. Going slow. It feels tender when we move out of these shapes. Fascia takes a long time to lengthen, but it takes a long time to contract. And bend into the knees, leaning back. Just going to rock from side to side. One hip could feel a little different than the other now because we've opened them up a little differently. And then we're going to cross, this time it'll be the left leg's going to cross in front of the right. And we're looking for the shins to cross over time. That's why lifting up onto a lot of height is helpful. I'll just show you that. So often when we cross our legs and we're tight in the hips, that we tend to cross at the ankles. We cross here and the knees sit high, especially when we lower down. So when we lift up onto this height, and a lot of height, it allows us to start to walk our feet a little further under the opposite knee, and then the knees usually have a little more access to go a little lower because we're up on a chair effectively, or a low chair. So see if you can find that shape, then see if you can, now that you've done one side, often the props are much more appealing. You know how long we were there for. So, cross the wrong leg in front. So it's the left leg in front. Over time, we're looking to push the feet or draw the feet across towards the opposite knee so that the shins cross rather than the ankles. Find that length in the spine. Chin dropping towards the chest, and this could be plenty. Otherwise, you can start to lean in. Sometimes having the arms straight is quite good because it stops us from rounding. When we kind of go in with our arms bent, we often just lean into the elbows. So arms straight, long spine, hands to the blocks. And then soften again, ungrip the glutes. We start to protect ourselves as we lean forward often, and we start to tense and hold. We know there's just no hurry in yin because we've got so much time in the poses. If there's space for you, options are onto the forearms, and maybe you could stack the blocks out in front, rest the head down. I like the blocks this way, the short way with the hands here, because it allows our elbows to be able to sink, whereas if we take them the other way, often our elbows will tend to wing out and the shoulders tense a little more. And this could be different to the other side. You might find now you've folded forward, there's a little more ease, but the opposite can be true here as well, because the legs are crossed differently, that the side may have a lot more sensation. And then watch that you don't clench the hands, that you don't shift the shoulders up to the ears. Soften the muscles of the face. They don't need to be involved in what's going on in the hips. And then we're watching out for whatever is going on in the mind. How could you soften? How could you stay with this? Maybe it's breath, maybe it's mantra. Mantra being just a phrase, a positive affirmation of some sort that is telling yourself that you have got this, you're capable, that you're changing some tight pattern in the hips. You could tell yourself, I'm not going to push too far, I'm listening to my body. You could just be saying breath in, breath out. Your head is draping towards the chest, chin to chest. Just again, a little sway from side to side can just sometimes free things up a little. Soften the shoulders, find the breath. Breathe deeply into the belly so that you feel the breath moving in around the lower back, into the pelvis, into the hips. Few more breaths, sigh it out through the mouth. And then even though the temptation may be that you want to rush on out, I want you to go out in little wee increments. As you start to lift up, pause and take a breath. Notice what's easing, mental, physical, emotional. Watching that you don't hold the breath on the way out. And then once you get back into an upright position, there still could be plenty of feedback, but just pause. And then leaning back, support the knees, and across the legs. Just have your props off to the side, lean back again. And if you want to take that windshield wiper movement, you could. If you want to reach the legs out and kind of pull the toes towards the knees and then point the toes away. Maybe some circles or some movements in the ankles. Whatever you need. And then all of us bringing the legs out in front now. This time we'll slide the right foot a little more towards the center and even slightly off center, so it's just a little out of its alignment. Then the right one, a left one. Remember the option of some props here, so maybe you want a bolster or a roll under the knee, maybe a block, and then lift that leg up and over. Once you get it there, pause. Chances are you're going to feel something in around that outer right hip. And then we slide that left foot back towards the right. Now that the right foot's on the left, it seems like a left foot or a right foot. And then remember the options. If the leg doesn't stack, no problem. You can take a block in underneath the knee. You could have a block or a cushion in under the ankle. You're still going to get all this nice opening into the hips. And then just pause again. No hurries. The bottom knee, you could put more support in underneath. Remember, I had the block high on this other side, but I don't need it this side. I know my hamstring's pretty open on the right. Long spine, maybe you stay here with the chin just dropping towards the chest. Otherwise, you can start to lean in a little more. We're looking for the navel to move towards the thigh, the chest towards the thigh, rather than rounding. Long spine, just head hanging. Arms could support you here if you need your blocks. Have those out in front. Could have them under the forearms. And then see if you can soften through that bottom leg, soften the glute. And then come back to that anchor, whether it's your breath or your mantra, whether it's just scanning through the body and noticing what stops you. It could be parts of the body that are feeling really uncomfortable. As we open up tissues that have been compressed or have been closed for a long period of time. And just check in. You'll be the first one to know if it's too much. Often when we start to feel a lot, we'll hold our breath, or we start to fidget if we get uncomfortable. We start to, maybe flick a bit of fluff or a bit of hair starts to get in our way, and we find excuses to move. See if you can just stay with whatever's going on as long as it's not pain, and invite it to soften, invite a change. If it ever feels too much, you just back away. And when the body starts to open up, you can follow that. There's a sense often of an opening or a sliding under the tissues. We just all of a sudden feel like we could lean in a little more without having to do too much. Maybe we just deepen the breath and direct it into an area that there is a bit of tension. And then nice and slow, like you're in slow motion. Moving yourself back upright. And then just wait. Support that top leg to bring it off. Again, moving slowly, things can feel tender and niggly. Bend into the knees, just leaning back. Last time, let the knees rock from side to side. And then we're going to come all the way down onto our back. Again, a couple of options. If you've got yoga blocks, they'd be great options. If you don't have yoga blocks, then your blanket could be rolled up to create like a block-like shape. And actually today I might use that one. That's a nice soft kind of landing. All the way down onto the back. And you want your prop within range, whatever it is you're going to use. Ponytails are a nuisance. And then press into the feet. Keep the feet nice and close into the hips. Just going to lift the pelvis. And we're going to come even up onto the toes if you need to, and slide your chosen prop right in under the sacrum. And I want you to make sure that it's nice and wide, that you don't have it too narrow. So often you'll see the yoga blocks turned this way. I'll show you. You won't be looking now. I don't want you to turn your head, but later, or if you're watching, when we take them too narrow, the SI joints kind of hang over the edge of that, and that makes them vulnerable. So we want wide enough that the entire pelvis is supported. And for some pelvises, if you're a little wider in the hips, then you might want 2 blocks end to end. Just walk the shoulders away from the ears. The ponytail's not in the ideal position, so you want to keep your neutral curve in the spine. And then from here, we're just going to make sure that there's no pain or compression in the lower back that feels sharp. But we're just going to think about sliding one leg out straight. If you're not too high, you could take 2 legs, but one leg is quite good today, just so we can feel into one side. We've done lots of forward folds, we've done lots of compression into the groins. So this is just taking us in the opposite direction. Oh, whoosh. Very into my parasympathetic nervous system. Rest and repair. Find the breath again, noticing the difference in the breath now that we're on our back, now that we're opening the front body. Maybe it's a little easier for you to breathe deep into the belly. Where could you soften? And then just to change sides, we want to do that so carefully as well. I want you to just feel a little bit of weight into the foot that's on the floor, and then keep the heel of the straight leg onto the floor and just drag that back gently. That way we're not going to compromise the lower back. And then we do the same thing to straighten the opposite leg. So feel the weight of the foot that you're going to keep bent, and then slide that opposite leg down to straighten it out. If it pinches into the lower back, then I'd suggest keeping the leg bent. Otherwise, just start to soften again. Watch that the shoulders aren't rolling forward. Watch that you're not holding the breath. Breath in, breath out. Soften any tensing around the forehead, soften the cheeks and the jaw, soften the throat. The lips are touching, but the upper and lower jaw are moving away from each other a little. The tongue's heavy. And just have the feeling that the eyes want to fall all the way back into the back of the skull. And even into the floor beyond. Where could you soften for a few more breaths? And then as we move out of this shape, I want you to keep that feeling of that softness in through the face and the throat, the base of the skull, only inviting the muscles that we need to move to turn on. Remember that idea of Brahmacharya, not wasting energy. So gently pressing the sole of the foot that's on the floor into the floor. Don't tense the face, the shoulders, the jaw. Then slide the straight leg back, remaining just as soft through the upper body as you were. And then without tightening anywhere else, press into the feet, draw the pubic bone towards the navel, so the lower back is going to start to press towards the floor. Curl the hips up. Watch that you're not tensing the face, scrunching the eyes, vertebra by vertebra. Come on down. And you can bring the hands onto the thighs. Again, just watch that you're not tensing anything around the face. Doesn't need to get involved. And then just as we began, we pressed the lower back into the floor and curled the tail up. And then we arch through the lower back, and that gentle rocking motion that the pelvis creates through the entire body. And back to neutral. Just press into the feet. Just going to slide the hips off to one side. Make a little support for yourself with the arm of the side you're going to roll over to. Again, seeing if you can stay soft, soft in the face. Nothing to tense or tighten, nothing to be kind of thinking ahead about. Just pausing in the side lying position. And come back to the breath. Breath in, breath out. And then nice and slow, again without having to over-engage all the muscles and waste energy on coming upright. Just come upright. Face can stay soft. Coming into any seated position. Find that nice long spine, crown of the head reaching up, sitting bones rooting down. Knowing that what we learn in our yoga practice we can take into life. So very often we waste a lot of energy on other dramas or other people's dramas. Let's bring the hands to connect. I loved a little quote I saw on Facebook the other day, and I'll modify it for the language, but it basically said, getting upset about something we see on Facebook is like stepping on dog poo rather than walking around it. And I love that. So we get caught up in so much drama sometimes that we could just step around. So dropping the chin towards the chest, bowing down to yourself and each other. Namaste. Nice to practice in the evening with you. This is a good one for the evening as well because we didn't do anything too vigorous. Lots of hip work, and the hips often get tight during the day, so it's nice to free those up in the evening. So you could do this one pretty close to bed as well, and it wouldn't activate you. Enjoy the evening if you've joined me this evening. And fingers crossed we have no more Facebook glitches, but we just went with it.